Hi everybody, today we are going to talk about the research that we conducted regarding virtual organization within the eScience community. We will be exploring this website that describes all the aspects that went into our research study. We will first meet the team, talk about the project, and then dive into the research. First, let's meet the team. First, we have Dominique Stewart, who is a communication studies major. Then we have Mackenzie Campbell, who is a strategic and corporate communication major. Finally, we have Michael Namovich, who is a strategic and corporate communication major. Now we're going to talk about the project.
So, now that you know who's involved, let's get to the good stuff. Here's a little bit about the project. Our research examines two key ingredients in creating the recipe for successful virtual organizing in the eScience community. We have found that eScientists use many different strategies when communicating through virtual means. This research has allowed us to learn about what those strategies are and the different tactics that they use in order to carry out those strategies. All in all, through thorough research and analysis, we want to discover how eScientists communicate and collaborate through virtual means. So by now you're probably wondering, why eScientists and not anybody else? Well, that's because when the internet was first created, it was mostly used by military personnel and scientists. We wanted to get closer to the root of the origins of the internet. We also put a lot of our information that we gathered from Clay Shirky, an American writer who focuses on the internet, including open source software and social computing. Shirky also provides a lot of information on the rise of decentralized technology and its social and economic effects.
Now let's talk about our research. Effective collaboration and communication are necessary for virtual organizations to successfully orchestrate themselves. Tool development and adoption has shifted over the years to being based on virtual structures. Jan Slow-Janzowski explains that
one of the lessons that emerged from our experiences with the eScience during this project underlined the importance of communication among team members.
We didn't exactly know what that meant, so we looked at more literature and came across authors such as Clay Shirky and Edward Deci, who talked about the importance of motivation and coordination in virtual communities. In this study, we explored two fundamental strategies that set up for the foundation for successful organizing in eScience. Previous studies have shown that there are many different communication traits and aspects that can create a stable organization. Our study seeks to answer the research question, what communication strategies constitute successful virtual organization in the eScience community?
Now, we'll talk about some methodology. So, how do we conduct this research? Using the grounded theory approach, we analyzed 8 interviews with domain scientists and computational technologists. Interview participants came from across the US. What is NVivo? It's a qualitative data analysis computer software package produced by QSR International. It's what we use to analyze all of our data. In order to reassure rigor, our group used intercoder reliability by assuring that each member read through all 8 transcripts on their own. Our intercoder reliability for this project is between 0.72 and 0.84. Because our reliability is higher than 0.7, it proves to be acceptable for social research.
Let's talk about our research. What is unique about our research is that we are taking a design stance. We executed this research by using a 4-step theory discovered in research from Mark Edkos and Sally Jackson. In this, we work to view the messages within our research as a design logic, meaning as the ongoing evolution of information and communication. Edkos and Jackson say,
taking a design stance towards such technology includes seeing what about communication is expressed in the design and being able to make reasonable assessments of whether people's use of the technology is adaptable to its design features or struggle against its design flaws.
In order to effectively carry out this model, we used 4 specific steps. We first analyzed the transcripts, then we analyzed the books of Clay Shirky, and then we finally compared and came up with a proposed redesign.
So let's look at intrinsic motivation. People have to be passionate about what they are doing because they have to be excited. I'm going to develop this new tool and people will use it worldwide or whatever, and put extra effort and not treat it like an industry job, 9 to 5 and just walk out.
Intrinsic motivation refers to the behavior that comes from inside of an individual. Self-fulfillment and the pursuit of knowledge are 2 examples of intrinsic motivation. In this quote, the researcher differentiates the motives of intrinsic and extrinsic tool development.
Now, for extrinsic motivation. There are bad apples, but I would say 80% and even 90% of people, I would say the people that I interact with at my center, and even the feeling I get from other people at other centers are good apples who are passionate about what they are doing and not just doing it to earn a salary. That would be very different.
Extrinsic motivation reflects the desire to do a task for an external reward. These usually consist of praise, money, and recognitional awards. Let's talk about open source. One of the key points to using open standards is that it's a standard that can be centralized around. People can build up generic tools around a standard, and then people build tools up around that standard. So anybody wanting to use their thing can leverage those tools.
Users of the software contribute to an environment that encourages feedback at almost virtually no price.
Now let's talk about documentation. Publishing in the open literature, providing documentation, really good documentation, makes it so much easier for groups to work together.
This is an important aspect of communication because it allows tool developers and tool users to collaborate in an efficient manner. When more people understand how to use a tool, more people can effectively adopt it and add to it.
What does Clay Shirky have to say? Clay Shirky suggests in his book that motivation and interest are two key strategies in successful collaboration. In his book, he says that we have always found the time to do things that interest us, specifically because they interest us. Our research fought for it in the struggle to create the 40-hour week.
Here, Shirky discusses interest in the workplace. He argues that people want to do things that interest them, especially because when you're passionate about something, it gives you more motivation to do better and allows you to enjoy your work. People don't want to spend 40 hours a week doing something that they have no interest in. Now, for coordinated specialization. Shirky explains the idea of coordinated specialization in his book in a variety of ways. He mainly argues his point that coordination within a group can be manipulated by using different strategies. Some of the strategies include the use of an open source network as well as documentation. Shirky says that
you can change the way people interact with one another in fairly fundamental ways, and you can shape people's behavior around things as simple as sharing music and as complex as civil engagement.
basically, Shirky is talking about how you can change the behavior of people who are collaborating together by implementing or changing communication processes within a group. He uses the example of music sharing, which can be compared to having an open source platform when you share music. Most of the time, it is available at no cost for other people to give their feedback. The act of that alone allows another outlet of effective coordination between a group of specialized people.
Now we will compare Shirky and what the e-scientists have to say.
The transcripts and Shirky's thoughts actually went together very well. They both reaffirmed our concluding findings that motivation and coordination are key aspects in successful virtual organizing. The transcripts agreed with Shirky's book in the way that when people are passionate, they are easier to work with and easier to interact with. This confirms Shirky's thoughts that enhanced motivation leads to a positive work experience. The transcripts also support Shirky's theories because the different types of motivation you have directly affect the way people work. In the transcripts, any scientist talks about how people who are not passionate and intrinsically motivated may not show up for a meeting, etc. Shirky would agree with this because, to him, people who really love something will work with a different mentality and would not miss a meeting if it was necessary for production. Shirky and the interviewers also both agree that by using an open source software allows for people to collaborate with each other without necessarily being in the same area. When people are geographically dispersed, sometimes it can be hard to collaborate outside of your own resources. However, open source standards allows a way for everyone to build on one generic tool. Lastly, there was a consensus between Shirky and the scientists that documentation is necessary to accelerate and clarify the sharing of knowledge amongst a group of people. Both of them argue that a clear expression as well as clear understanding of the processes of work are important for successful collaborations.
Now let's talk about our proposed redesign. Our findings indicate that there are many different strategies included in the successful virtual organizing of an e-science community. Through the analysis of our data, we have narrowed down two main strategic areas that provide a foundation for successful virtual organizing. These features are motivation and coordination.
What do we do about that? Let's look at the group meetup. We have decided that by creating a place where people could host local events would allow people who normally organize through virtual means to organize face-to-face. Think of a huge organization where there are people all over the world who work together but never necessarily get to see each other. When people travel to a different place to interact with people in that area for work, they can use this platform to organize in a real work setting. Seeing and communicating face-to-face could make people more motivated to complete goals and it's just plain easier to get on the same page, which in turn increases productivity, motivation, and coordination. The next proposed redesign we have to offer is based on Clay Shirky's idea of replacing planning with coordination. In the eScience community, collaboration can be more useful than planning. When systems are connected and communication is simple, more tasks can be efficiently executed. Shirky says,
"The more ubiquitous and familiar a communication method is, the more real-time coordination can come to replace planning and the less predictable group reaction becomes."
we wanted to essentially speed up the communication process in the eScience community.
Lastly, we will talk about our poster. We invite you to take a look at our poster that we presented at the Chapman University Research Fair. We also want to credit the National Science Foundation for funding the research discussed in this presentation, and to our co-author and research advisor, Kirk Key. That's all that we have for today. If you want to learn more about our research or other proposed designs, feel free to visit our website. Bye!